Disclaimer, do not go attacking anybody after this video. I hate the fact that I have to say this because it shows just how horrible the state of the internet is, but that's beside the point. This video is not meant to attack anybody who thinks the characters I'm talking about in this video are wasted, and you should not be attacking them either. Now, let's go on with the video. Murder Drones is one of my favorite shows ever. In spite of that, the fandom is one of the most annoying fandoms I've ever seen. A big problem I see within it is fans not understanding the characters. For them in specific, I'll be discussing in this video one character who I agree is actually a wasted character, and the fact that this character in question is wasted is my biggest gripe with the series, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Another thing I don't agree with the fandom on is something that a lot of people have been so desperate for, that they've been pestering both Glitch and Liam over it, but we'll get to what that is later. Now let's start with the character I see the most people do not understand, Doll. Words cannot explain how annoyed I get whenever I see someone say Doll's a wasted character. Doll was made to serve as a direct parallel to Uzi. She's a morally gray character. She watched her parents get killed by V and wanted to avenge them by killing her, and she was legit willing to both cut off and kill so many of her classmates just so she could get revenge on V. Now, I understand where the argument of her being a wasted character comes from. She was teased at the end of episode 2, and was basically the spotlight of episode 3, and it showed so much of her character, but because she got much less screen time in the following episodes, people thought the show wasted her. That's kind of a surface level analysis of her, and it's kinda fair to say that about her, but again, this comes from the problem of fans not understanding her character. The main thing people don't seem to understand about her is that she's a dark parallel to Uzi, showing everything she shouldn't have done throughout the series. She constantly foils Uzi's plans, she constantly cuts off people just so she can get her way, and because of this, she died alone. She caused her own demise. Meanwhile, Uzi, because she let herself get close to end, she gets saved from dying. Doll had nobody to save her, while Uzi did. They are literally two sides of the same coin. The Murder Drones fandom loves Doll so much, and I find it painfully ironic how so many people simultaneously claim to love her character, yet don't understand so much about her. She's a boring character. She's one of the most tragic characters in the whole series, and you do not understand the joy it brings me by seeing videos by people like Blanterdang and Kitty Dragon Draws who actually understand Doll's character and explain why she's not wasted, and I had to do it in the shortest way possible, I guess. Now let's move on to the next character, Jay. The way fans view Jay is very similar to Doll, a character that had moments in the spotlight in the pilot, only to get much less screen time in the following episodes. Hell, she's completely absent for episodes 2 and 4, not counting Eldritch Jay or the flashback at the beginning. The different part is that people slander Jay for how little screen time she has. I mean, she has a total of 11 minutes of screen time in a 2-hour-long show. But do you want to know what I think? The way I see Jay is that she and V are in a similar situation to Uzi and Doll. I see Jay as a dark parallel to V. Think about it. They both have smug personalities, with the difference being V's is strictly a facade. Jay's egotistical, while V is not necessarily humble, but she definitely is in comparison to Jay. Jay outright hates N for existing, while V cares for N without wanting to show it. In episode 1, Jay gets killed off because of her ego, while V is still alive being held captive by Uzi and N. And while V and N rebelled against Sin's control, Jay was too loyal to JC Jensen and knew there was no escape from the solver. The only person Jay ever truly cared for was Tessa. She only kept N safe because Tessa cared for him. Once the three of them returned into disassembly drones, there was no escape from Sin's orders, no matter what. She knew if she rebelled, she'd be thrown out, and if she was to get killed, the solver would repair her like we see in Heartbeat. Jay could not escape from Sin, and she and V would constantly get tricked by her, the prime example of this being when Sin posed as Tessa. And because Jay knew there was no escape, she wanted V to be on the winning team. However, because Jay was defeated in the final battle, and Uzi successfully defeated Sin, Jay had nobody left for her, so she repaired her ship and left Copper 9 off to who knows where, all by herself. Remember when I said she was a parallel to V? Well, in the end, almost every character got their happy ending. V still has N, and is still friends with Uzi and Lizzie, I guess. Meanwhile, Jay has nobody, not even Tessa. And while what I'm about to say is my personal headcanon, the part where she says she doesn't need N or V, I believe that's her way of coping with what Sin did to them. And again, while this is going into theory territory, I don't think she believes she can rebel like N and V did due to her loyalty to JC Jensen and Sin. Not to mention, Sin still has control over her AI because she wasn't there when Uzi hacked into N and V's AI to free them from Sin's control. Now, I see a lot of people saying Jay should have got a redemption arc, but I personally think that wouldn't have worked for her character. Same goes for Doll as well, which, then again, she did sort of receive one at the end of episode 7 after Sin killed her, but that's a different story. One last thing before we move on, people have been saying that either Jay and or Doll should have been the main villains if we ever got a season 2 for Murder Drones, which I just want to rant about my thoughts on season 2 for a bit. We do not need a season 2. Other than Glitch and Liam themselves both confirming the show is already over, I just don't see a need for it. Season 1 works well as its own self-contained story, and we already know everything we need to know about the show in Season 1. In fact, the only thing people have been mainly wanting to see in Season 2 is more of characters that we didn't see much of, which I don't blame anyone for that. I love seeing these characters just as much as you do, but you realize you can literally apply this exact same logic to any show that's already ended, right? And honestly, the closest thing we'll ever get to both a new episode of Murder Drones and a Season 2 is the Fight Till I'm Good Enough music video. Speaking of which, the fandom is so ungrateful that Glitch still even acknowledges Murder Drones' existence. Just imagine a world where Glitch gave it the Metrunner treatment by basically forgetting it exists. Ironically enough, Murder Drones fans want the show to get the Metrunner treatment because Metrunner so far is the only Glitch to have more than one season. And adding on to Murder Drones fans being ungrateful, Glitch recently published a graphic novel comic version of Murder Drones where it got the show in comic form. And friendly reminder, this is the first Glitch show to have a comic made of it since the Metrunner Source prequel comic. And Murder Drones fans are still not happy about it because it's not a season 2, which, can I just say, even if we do get a season 2 of Murder Drones, the fandom still won't be satisfied with it anyway because they won't get what they want from season 2. And on top of all of this, Glitch already has their hands full. They have to make the final episode of The Amazing Digital Circus, they have to fund an entire season's worth of the Gaslight District, Knights of Guinevere, and Game Overs, and they also have to help make Lackadaisy. And considering people are already attacking Glitch for having too many shows, with a total of 4 ongoing, including Lackadaisy and Game Overs, and not counting Digital Circus because it's nearing its end, imagine if they were to announce a Murder Drones Season 2 at this time. Not only will that cause slander towards Glitch for biting off more than they can chew, but that might also possibly cause stress towards the people at Glitch for having to keep tabs on 5 different shows at the same time. And one last thing, imagine if Gaslight District, Knights of Guinevere, or Game Overs ever got greenlit for a second season. If any of these shows are ever going to get another season, people are most likely going to claim Glitch is playing favorites by giving one of these shows a season 2 and not Murder Drones. Now, I'm done with my rambling. Let's move on to the next quote-unquote wasted Murder Drones character, Nori. Fun fact, I used to not like Nori either, and my reasoning goes as follows. She kind of boiled down to a plot device and showed no remorse for leaving Uzi and Khan behind for years. Not to mention when Nori and Khan reunite in the finale. But now that I actually understand Nori's character, I like her. Let's begin. Nori is arguably one of, if not the most important character in the Murder Drones series. The main events of the show would have never happened without her. Cut her out of the show, we have no Uzi, and because she was the one who told Khan to build the bunker to save everyone from the disassembly drones, Corporate would be filled with nothing but a bunch of dead drone bodies, meaning the Sovereign Sin would have won. After Yeva used the patch to save Nori while under Sin's control, that led to the end of human life on Copper 9, and after she had Khan and Uzi, she was eventually splashed by one of the Murder Drones' nani-acid, and Khan had to put her out of her misery to save her from a painful death. And the fact that Nori survived because her AI lived on inside of her core, it's unknown and up to interpretation whether or not Khan knew about that. It's implied that he knew in episode 7, but that could also be disproven, as I'll show in just a second. Now that she was still alive, she spent the next few years searching for the patch inside of the Cabin Fever labs while Uzi grew up without her. Once she finally found it, she wanted to get back to the surface to find Khan. Meanwhile, once she and Khan met face to face again in the finale, all we get to see is, "You don't know me, I hate you!" Kind of hot? Yet off-screen, Nori and Khan do properly reunite, and now Nori is back into Uzi's life and still lives on inside of her core. Now, remember when I originally said that she showed no remorse for leaving Uzi and Khan behind for years? Well, she did have remorse. She said herself that she caused every horror in Uzi's life. Destroyed the planet, got the murder from Sectaire, gaming got layout genetics. This skill also explains her reaction when seeing Khan again for the first time in years. That, and considering how much Uzi got from Nori, the "you don't know when I hate you" is very in character for her. Now, let's move on to the one character who I actually agree is a wasted character. Fun fact, Thad was originally going to be a main character, but plans were changed and he ended up as a side character, which I'm upset at this because Thad was a golden character. He only really had a major role in the first 2 episodes and only a minor role in the final 2. And can we just mention how he was Uzi's first real friend? He was the only one who didn't treat her like an outcast, and I'll forever be salty that Uzi x Thad never became canon. It was implied that Uzi had a crush on Thad in the first 2 episodes, but unfortunately, from episode 3 onwards, that was retconned in favor of NX Uzi being the endgame couple because A, fan service, and B, main boy x main girl is apparently a necessity in cartoons for contrived reasons. I have way too much fun, like, recording my commentary for this videos. I just love going off script like that. And when you think about it, the ship makes more sense than Uzi. Uzi and N always had more of a older sister and younger brother dynamic. And on top of that, that was sort of a subversion of the jock stereotype. When you think of your average character under that cliche, you probably think of an egotistical bitchy guy who has no other personality traits. Meanwhile, Thad is just a chill guy. Again, he was the only one to actually respect Uzi as a person, and I guess minus Sin, he's literally the only character who doesn't have any beef or drama going on with any other characters. I wish his character would have gone somewhere, but Liam had to sideline him for no reason. Trust me, I'm mourning the retconning of Thuzi all the time. I think the overall problem is that the fandom wants complex characters, while not understanding that they already have complex characters. Anyway, I may make a part 2 to this video because while recording my commentary, I've seen people who don't understand even more characters, so in any potential part 2 that I make, if people actually want to see one, we'll discuss N, Con, etc, etc. So that's really all I have to say, and Bill, roll the outro.
Remember, reality is an illusion, the universe is a hologram. Bye, Gold. Bye!